Welcome! It's Jackie, and I'm here to give you some tips and tricks for putting together your Build-A-Birthday card kit. Now there's going to be a few other tips and tricks just for general stamping in here, so you really want to watch. And we're going to start just with a general tip that you may or may not have seen me show already, but I want to talk about photopolymer stamps a second. You know, when you get them, and you've probably had some by now, you know, they come between two sheets of plastic. And for the longest time, I was always peeling these, using the stamp, putting it back in there. I've solved the problem of it being kind of a pain. If you look, there is no plastic sheets in here. What I did is I peeled both sheets off, took all my stamps, set them aside, and then in the back of your case here, you can slide that plastic sheet in, the one that has the printed images on it, and then that way, now my stamps are just stuck onto my case right on top of the word, so I always know, or the image, I know which ones are there. Like in this case, this plastic sheet in the bottom was pretty small and it wanted to slide around, so I actually have a little glue dot. I don't know if you can see it. I kind of a glare there, but there's a glue dot so that holds it in place, and that way I can just peel these off and use them whenever I'm ready. So that's my first tip with photopolymer stamps. My other tip, this is the best $5 investment you will ever make. This is the piercing pad. Now I know this has nothing to do with piercing, but with photopolymer stamps, as you know, there's not a lot of cushion because we don't have that rubber in there. So if you're having struggles getting a really good, crisp, clear image, put your paper that you're stamping on top of a paper piercing mat and then stamp, and it will give you a way better image. This little pad sits by my desk all the time. I'm always stamping on it. So with that, let's move into card 1 in this kit. I don't really have a whole lot that I need to tell you about this one. It's pretty self-explanatory. Go ahead and emboss your cucumber here with whatever embossing folder. I have the stars on mine. And then, as you know, dimensionals are a stamper's crack. It's my candy crack. I use so many of them. And this one, because this is all stamped on here and pretty flat, there is just dimensionals underneath this layer to give it a little dimension there. But otherwise, all these pieces, I start at the bottom and I just stamped them going up, being photopolymer, real simple to do. Now let's talk about card number 2. This one has a few things I want to share with you. Again, when the card goes together, there's dimensionals underneath this layer. But this time, instead of stamping the cake right onto the Whisper White here, each individual piece was stamped on the white scrap paper included in your kit and then cut them out. I think it just adds a little bit more dimension. You know, you may or may not see on the video, but when you stamp yours, you'll see what I mean. And then when you go to put this together, stamp your flags up at the top first so that you can line them up right at the top there. And then all we're doing is adhering these pieces down. Unfortunately, there's no punch or framelit for these, so you have to hand cut them, but they're pretty simple to do. Now, I want to talk about these little flowers a little bit. Mine kind of flattened out, but if you look at mine, they're not real flat. There's a little bit, they curve up a little bit. And you can take your flower, and I've punched these for you in case you don't have, this is just the itty bitty flower punch, but when you punch them, they're pretty flat. And if you just glue them down, they look flat. What I like to do, I mean, granted you can use your hands, but I like to use my piercing pad again. And then this is the little stylus that comes with the scoreboard, or you can buy it individually. And I put my flower there, and I just put the fat end of this in the middle, and I press. And you'll see it just gives that flower a nice little bend coming up. Oh my gosh, my hands are really inky. But so then I like to just use a little dab of the multi-purpose. You know, I think you need all the adhesives. I use all the different adhesives for different reasons, but this, a little dab on there makes it really easy to just stick it down on your card. Now, you'll also see the little rhinestones on here. Now, I always have people struggling with picking the rhinestones up off of this, okay? Like trying to get them, either if you don't have nails, they're hard. If your nails are too big, they're hard. A little tip that I use that makes it super simple is I take my little paper snips and I can actually just put the little tip under there. It picks it up really easy. Now I can come down and lay it where I want it. Very simple. Works great with the pearls and the rhinestones. Now, let's see. Oh, the one other thing I want to talk about on card number 2 here is our little banner. And again, this is a little bit of some general tips. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to take the birthday one here. Now, general tip, do you ever struggle getting your stamps nice and straight on your block. You know, to me, even though I can see through them, I like them straight on there. So what I do is I take this little guy, and it really helps when they're stained like this one. You can tell I've used it a lot. But I use my grid paper, and I can see the lines on the grid paper. There's my words, so I know it's straight with a grid. And then I can take a block and I line my block up, either the top here with a line or on the side, or whatever part of your block you want to use to line it up, and then just go down and stick it on there. I now know my words are straight on my block. So if I need to stamp this, all I have to do, you know, on a card, this one it's not going to matter as much because we're doing a little banner piece here. But if I was going to put this, say, in the middle here, and I wanted to make sure I had it straight, I can line up any of the edges on my block with an edge of the cardstock, and it'll be straight because I know I'm square on there. So good general little tip. Now, as far as banners, I did not pre-cut this piece for you because it's pretty thin, and it's a little bit easier, in my opinion, to stamp and then cut. So what I'm going to do, we're just going to ink up our stamp here. Oh, that kind of wobbles the video. Sorry about that. Now, make believe there's a piece of scrap paper, and then what I like to do is just come down and line this up right at the very bottom edge, okay, and stamp it. Oop, I like how those stick. Once it's stamped, then take your paper cutter and trim it. You know, that way, okay, you know, if you ask me what size this is, I don't really know because it really doesn't matter. I just line up the top there, and that way I can have it nice and centered and thin on this little piece of paper. Now, the final thing I want to show you, okay, is making the little banners, and you're going to have these in a couple of your other cards. But the easiest way to do a banner edge, if you don't have the banner punch, or if, like in this case, it's smaller, 1 inch is the smallest size that fits in there, is I just trim off, okay, leaving a little bit there, and then I go to the middle, and I snip in, and I come over here, and I snip that way, and I snip that way. A little more, and there is my banner piece. Now, obviously on this card I do the other side of it, but that should be all the little tips you need for card number 2. Okay, okay, here is card number 3. Not a whole lot to tell you about this one. Just emboss this with whatever embossing folder you have. You will have a little piece of lace, and what I did with that, I don't want to tear it apart, but it's actually wrapped around, and I just used some adhesive on the back side to hold it. Okay, we already talked about doing the banners. The other thing I want to talk about here is your button. So you're going to have these cute little buttons in there. You'll have some silver cord, thread it through, tie it in a bow. Okay, and then just trim the ends. Pretty simple. But I mentioned earlier about how there's so many different adhesives we use. Buttons, the best way to stick them down is with glue dots. And I always tear this extra little piece off when I don't need it to cover dots anymore. But let's make believe the cord's through here, and then all I would do is there's the little glue dot, if you can see it on there. I stick the button down on it tight. It'll stick to the back of it. I turn it around. I put another one on there, so I have 2 of them, and I stick it down. It holds awesomely. So that's number 3. Card 4, very simple. These are just little banners. Cut those out with, actually I included those. I cut those, punched them with a little banner punch, and those are in your kit for you. Otherwise, do some stamping, add your words. This is where it kind of comes in handy if you have your words clear on, or straight on your clear block, like we talked about in the first with card number 1 there. So add that on there. This is the decorative dots embossing folder. Use whichever one you want. They all look awesome. So that's card number 4. 2 more projects to show you. Number 5, it's not actually a card, it's more of a gift card holder. And if you'll notice, we have this little belly band, so we're going to take that off. And then all this is an envelope. And I took my envelope, I folded it in half to get a nice crease in it, and then I cut, and we'll see if you can see this on the video here. You can see this is part of the envelope flap here. I cut down the middle of that flap, licked the side and stuck it down, but then I cut this piece off. So now I have a little pocket. So I can just stick a gift card in here. These little presents, all 3 of them were stamped together. They're not individual pieces. So I stamped 3 of them, cut it out, wrapped a little bit of baker's twine to put it on there so it looks like a present. On the front, candles were just stamped in the same color ink as the cardstock. So it gives it a little bit different look. We've got the darker and the lighter of the 3 different colors on there. Stamped my flames, birthday wishes. I mean, super simple, little belly band. Just take your strip, and what I do is I set it on there, wrap the edges around, okay, to get the size you need to fold it at. Put a little adhesive on the back, tie the ribbon around it. Got some dimensionals to hold our little circle on there, and it just makes a cute little gift card holder. And this will slide back, whoops, will slide back on there. So that's project, we won't call it card, project number 5. And then card number 6, okay, notice this is a square card. I love square cards. Now, it's kind of a weird size square card because it's 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And the reason I do that size is it's the same width as a normal card. It's just shorter. Instead of going out to 5 1/2, it's 4 1/4. But by making it this size, you can put it in your regular envelope and mail it with regular postage. Typically, a square card in a square envelope is going to cost more postage. That's why I do this size and put them into a regular envelope. No one knows the difference, that there's a little bit of the envelope that's not used. So again, we have the banner. We talked about that. Each of these pieces are stamped individually, and if you look, you can see that they're on with dimensional, so the whole cake is popped up. There's our flowers again with the little bow here. That's just stuck on there. I just took my little piece of cording and tied myself a bow. And just adjust it to how you like it. And once again, we use the awesome little glue dots. Okay, just roll them around till you find, there's my glue dot. I can take this, I stick it right down on it, pop it up. The glue dot is on the back because it's a little narrower. I just kind of bend it down a little bit, and I can stick that right on there. And that's all there is to this project. I hope you've enjoyed your Build a Birthday card kit. And remember, these kits are designed so that you have the ideas and you have all the measurements so that you can make more of these cards using your own cardstock. Thanks again for either being part of my Stamps in the Mail Club or for purchasing this month and getting this kit. Have fun. If you have any questions at all about any of the projects, make sure you ask. I'm here to help you in any way that I can.